Yogis, it's Jackie here. I had a request from one of our students to make a video showing how I brew my own kombucha at home. Kombucha is a drink that's used to help balance the good bacteria in your digestive system and in your stomach. It's similar to things like yogurt with the good bacteria and so on and so forth, or like sauerkraut and whatnot. So anyways, my first disclaimer is that I'm not some kombucha expert. I have to do a shout out to my friend Brooke, who showed me how to make this kombucha batch. So you attempt this at your own risk because you are working with live bacteria. And since you're doing it at home and with your own sanitary conditions, you attempt this at your own risk, although there really is if you're careful, minimal ways that you can be harmed in this process. So hopefully you find this beneficial and maybe try a kombucha batch. So this is actually kombucha, and I am needing to make more kombucha, as you can see here. So I'll explain this container. So I'm going to start by explaining the container that we have here. This is a glass container. I think it holds about a gallon, and it has a plastic spigot on the end to make, because we do a continuous home brew, which means we really only switch out the SCOBY or like clean out the container about every 3 months. And this way we can just add the new liquid batch, the tea, into the top, and then we just take it out of the spigot. So there are a variety of opinions about the spigot. This is plastic. Some people say that the kombucha will eventually start to eat away at the plastic. Some people prefer metal, but then I've also heard some opinions about metal spigots as well. So you can kind of make your decision there. And then what we do is we take the lid off, and then we have like this cheesecloth here that we put over top, and then put the rubber band over top of that to help keep it secure. But you want something that's breathable at the top because it needs oxygen to live. So what you see in here is actually, here I'll bring it up to what you see in here is actually the SCOBY, and you'll get to see that a little bit later on. So I kind of talked about the container and a little bit about the SCOBY. There will be more on that soon. So I'm just going to set this aside for right now. So I have a couple of things here. One is we already have, how many cups of water do we have? Enough to fill the container. Sorry, my husband's directing. Enough to fill the container. We're boiling the water here. So what we need to do is take black tea bags. I know Angela, who's a teacher at Evolve as well, is doing some kombucha, and she's trying green tea, so I'll be interested to see how that turns out. But otherwise, I use black tea, and this is just organic black tea. So obviously you need to take all of these out of the bag and place them into the hot water and let them steep. So you let them steep for about 20 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll be right back and show you some more of the process. So Yogis, my husband, came up with a really cool idea where he ties the tea bags to a wooden spoon, and then that allows them to steep in the boiling water without falling all the way down. So my husband always is so willing to do this next part for me because it kind of grosses me out a little bit. So he's making sure that he's washing a plate really well. And he's also washed his hands before he washed the plate. And that's a really important aspect because you have to remember that you are handling a live bacteria. So you want to be very mindful of that you're using clean plates and clean hands. So here he's just pulling out the SCOBY, and the SCOBY will take on the shape of whatever container you have it in. So you can actually see that some of the layers are falling off already. So then he puts it onto the plate and then simply just peels off the layers that we call SCOBY babies. So he's just peeling off the layers because you don't really need, otherwise your SCOBY is going to grow all the way in. So that's a nice, thick, healthy SCOBY. And a SCOBY stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. So this is a good time to make a shout out to Sarah, who is a midwife here in town, and she actually gifted my husband and I with our first SCOBY mother from her collection. So we call the SCOBY mother the kind of the main SCOBY, and then the others we call it the SCOBY babies. And you can save them or you can just throw them away. So it is about time that we wash our jar. So Neil is going to go ahead and do that. He's going to dump out the remaining kombucha that was in there. And so he's going to wash that out nice and clean, and then we'll be right back. Waiting for the kombucha, the tea to brew, you get on the floor and you do some yoga. Maybe even legs up in the air. Super awesome. Okay, so another step while the black tea is steeping is you need to add sugar, because that's what the bacteria feeds off of. So we dissolve the sugar in the tea combination, and this is organic cane sugar here. So what we basically do, and I have a fourth a cup in my bag here. So we have about a gallon of tea in there, so I'm going to use a cup of sugar. So like I said, I have a fourth a cup in here, so I'm just going to pour in 4 of these. That's the measurement that I have. Ooh, you can see I'm a really clean cooker. So we just do that, and then I'm going to mix it around a little bit here. And so the sugar will dissolve in the mix. So again, we just let this steep for a little while longer here. Here we have the tea bag soaking, bathing, waiting in the boiling water. So that's going to steep for 20 minutes. Our tea batch is done. It's cooled to a little bit warmer than room temperature. And so we're just going to go ahead, well, Neil is going to fill up our jug with tea. So this at this point is just the black tea, brewed black tea with sugar in it. And there he's making sure he's washing his hands again. And then he grabs the kombucha, the SCOBY that we're going to put back into our container. And we actually took the thinner one this time. And just simply puts it back into the tea batch. So with this leftover SCOBY, you can put it, this was a tip from Sarah, you can put it in like a mason jar or another container if you know somebody who wants a SCOBY, or you just want to keep them...
with enough fluid to cover the SCOBY.
Yes, with enough fluid to cover the SCOBY. So like if you use a mason jar, make sure you fill that with enough of the tea, and then you can add the SCOBY baby in there. Now we just discard ours. We don't keep ours since our only batch is this. So you can see that the SCOBY is diagonal in the container, and it'll end up evening out as it settles. So Neil is going to the kombucha in the container with the cheesecloth, and it's in a dark, warm environment by the fridge. So you can use any bottle. I like to use one like this that traps the air in so that it gets a little bit fizzier. The kombucha will stay brewing for about 7 to 14 days. I like mine a little bit longer. It just gets a little more vinegary. After that, you can place it in the bottle and put any kind of fruit in it to flavor it or leave it plain. I like to peel some ginger and use that, and then put it in the fridge for another day, let it get a little bit fizzy cooler, and then I go ahead and drink it. So that is how I make my continuous home brew kombucha. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me or contact me. Again, my name is Jackie, and enjoy your kombucha.